Good day, St. Lucia. Welcome to Against All Odds. Of course, our show is about inspiration. It is about stories told from the person's vantage point, from their viewpoint. We encourage you to stay with us. Some of our stories will make you laugh, some of them will make you cry, and some of them, well, we hope all of them will inspire you. Today, we will be speaking with a gentleman who has definitely earned the right and the description to be against all odds. He started, as most of us, from very humble beginnings, but he has now placed himself in a position through grit and determination where he can now speak with us. So we are listening for advice, for encouragement, and for his story. So please stay with us. And when we come back, we will be speaking to this gentleman. Again, this is Against All Odds. We'll be right back.
PAX is the agent for Caribbean Line, which offers an effective alternative for global integrative of transport logistics from Sheerness, UK to Vieux-Fort St. Lucia in shipping, documentation, administrative procedure, loading and unloading operations. We also offer courier, small package service, customs brokerage, ship agency, freight forwarder, consolidator, and accounting services. Visit them today on New Dock Road, Vieux-Fort, or call 454-1200 or 719-8837. PAX is effective, efficient, and reliable.
Real estate transactions are now made easy. Whether buying, selling, or renting residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, or touristic property, we offer the best deals in real estate transactions with professional support, including valuation, material sourcing, and construction. Contact Ed Harris and Associates, your courteous and efficient real estate agents. Call 485-1456 or email carrotbiz@gmail.com.
Do you need to copy or print your document? Are you in need of insurance? Are you looking for office stationery? Stop. Yes, LMP Services on Clark Lane, Vieux-Fort has all the services you need. They open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or call 454-8757 or 721-8757 for affordable rates, reliable and effective customer service with a difference.
Ernesto's Auto Parts, located on the Labrie-Vieux-Fort Highway, is your place for auto parts. We have suspension parts, mounts, brakes, shocks, and so much more.
We specialize in accessories like mats, batteries, horns, lubricants, and much more.
We're open from Mondays to Saturdays from 8 to 5 and Sundays and most holidays from 8 to 1.
L'opri, Ernesto vai dé pour you.
What do you need to transport? Call the hauler. At M&E's Trucking, we offer a wide range of services island-wide, from containerized movement, flatbed service, and lowboy transfers. We're located at Beanfield, Vieux-Fort. Our skillful professional drivers are ready to serve you. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram or email us at vibration711@gmail.com. Call us at 488-1000. We're ready to serve you. M&D's Trucking Service, a powerhouse ready to haul.
Welcome back to Against All Odds. And today we are speaking with Sir Michael Shastney. And welcome, Mr. Shastney. How are you doing today?
I'm very, very well, thank you.
You look very, very
Yeah,
well.
thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It is an absolute joy to be here. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for the time. Thank you for the consideration. And like we were discussing earlier, I think you have earned more than earned the right to have your story told. So please tell us about yourself. Tell us about you growing up and the person that, well, of course, we will gravitate to the person that you are now. Some of the what was your childhood like? What was it like um, being the last of, what was it, 10 children?
Yeah.
Yes. So tell us about you. Tell us about your childhood. Tell us what makes you, your foundation.
Well, first of all, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to air my thoughts with you today.
You're welcome.
I'm very appreciative for that.
Likewise.
I'm able to share it with my St. Lucian folks. First of all, I was born in Castries. We lived in the city for all my life until I was 18 years of age. Came from a family of 10. My dad worked in the government service. My mother was a housewife. And 5 or 6 years, when I was about 5 years of age, things were very difficult with my parents. And my mother opened a small bakery in the Castries area. And I remember how hard she worked. It was very eminent that she wanted to do the right things in life. Fast track. My mother used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to sell bread to the people who were working in the Calisac and Roseau valleys, who'd come there at 4 o'clock in the morning, buy a huge basket of bread, put it in their head and take it and walk to the valleys from Calisac to Roseau from Castries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, it was quite a household. It's a household of 10 children, 5 boys and 5 girls. And being the last of 10 children, you can well imagine the disparity in age, that my eldest brother actually was almost like a father in the house. Because as my father grew older, he sort of assumed the role of the man in the house. Because when I was still a child, he was already working. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And life moved on. My mother was determined that her children all had to be independent, and in her very humble way, she encouraged them to try to move abroad to study under very difficult conditions, but she was able to do it and push them. And sooner rather than later, the house was just me at the end, because everybody had gone away. By then, my father had aged, and he was running a little ferry. And when I used to come home from school in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, I would see him resting on a bed, totally exhausted because what he had to do. And this whole image made me think differently in life, that I had to help this man, you know. And as a result of that, he had a small ferry, my mother had a little bakery, but I became more interested in the ferry my father had, and I figured he wanted more help than my mother. My mother was younger than him, she was a bit stronger, and life went on. Another part of my life which intrigued me was the 2 or 3 people my father had working on this little ferry. I became very close to them for whatever reason. And I mean, maybe it's the Lord that causes that. And I never imagined in my life that I would have gone any deeper in the shipping business. But I loved what I was doing at the time. And let us fast track. Um, I took control of this little ferry eventually.
Question: what was the route
Come
for the
again?
ferry? What was
So it's
the route?
running between, there were no roads to Soufrière in those days.
Ah,
So
okay.
the boat would go from Castries to Soufrière to Choiseul to Labrie to Vieux-Fort every day and come back up. That's
Ah,
how people moved. We brought things like flour, rice, and so forth to the coast, and we brought back ground provisions every day. Yeah, and it was quite interesting, quite interesting. So um, I then inherited like two or three persons who I have to use the word loved. I really had an extremely good relationship with them, and which was absolutely wonderful. And I guess in life, when you have all those pluses, that's what makes a person. So life went on, and as I said, um, I then decided, because of those individuals and the kind of support I had, I decided to have a boat built in St. Lucia. So started as a boat called the Michael David.
the
Yeah,
Michael
yeah.
David.
Named by a school friend of mine. Built the boat right where the government buildings are today. Yeah, and when the boat was launched, it was on the dock, and this friend of mine said to me, "Why don't you call it the Michael David?" And because David was my brother, who had helped, but he was working at the Treasury, but he had gone away. And I thought it was a good idea, so we called it the Michael David. And then I went to sea for 6 months to learn about the business. And again, because of the kind of people I had working with me, I developed I call myself a people's person, so I had a good relationship with those guys, which they really appreciated. And they were very good people. And the business became successful. So I built a second boat.
Question:
Again,
just before you continue, so when you went away for the 6 months, was it your crew that was managing the Michael David?
so, sorry,
When you went away to study boating,
no,
to
I
learn?
didn't go away to study.
No,
No, I said my brother went away.
no, I misunderstood. You said you after the Michael David was built, so
Yeah.
you were on the sea for 6 months
No, no, yeah,
learning.
no, yes, well, no, on the same boat, huh?
Oh, on the
Yeah,
same boat. Okay,
yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
okay. I thought
Yeah,
it was
as
something
part
else.
of the business, yeah,
As part of okay,
right,
understood.
yeah,
Yes,
to learn more of the business.
fair
And
enough.
by going out for 6 months and getting a clinch of the business, it inspired me to go further. So I built a second boat, yeah, and I ran those boats, and it was quite successful. Um, and then while I was doing that, it was normal for everybody to get a job in St. Lucia, to have a good job. And since the boats didn't take up all my time, Geest Industries, when they had the bananas in St. Lucia, was looking for a manager, a shipping manager, because these boats came in from the UK and took bananas. They came in empty and went back. I applied for the job. I got the job. So in between what I was doing, I took a job as a shipping manager at Geest, yeah, and worked for 1 year because I wanted to know what it's like to work for somebody. And I did a lot of good things for Geest Industries. I'll give you one example. Um, the ships used to come in empty from the UK and go back full with bananas. And the owner of Geest Industries, Mr. John Van Geest, said to me one day, look, I want you to assist the company in getting more freight from the UK. But he made it very easy because what he said, look, I have to pay out millions of dollars for the bananas. So anybody who wants anything bought in the UK or Europe, I will pay for it for them and they can pay me in St. Lucia. That was an easy sell because people got a kind of credit and he had to pay no bank charges because the money was here. And in a matter of 3 to 4 months, these ships were coming out full from England, full.
Fantastic.
Our biggest competitor was a company called Harrison Line. And we pushed them aside in no time. And I spent 1 year with the company. I was treated very well. I considered it very well. But I learned my lesson. I knew what it was to work for somebody and to work for myself. So when I gauged the returns of what it is, I resigned and I thanked them greatly for what they had done. I learned a lot. There are many little things I did. I give you, for instance, we used to go to View Fort every Wednesday night to load the bananas. The ship would come in at 8 o'clock and we'd work round the clock from 8 in the night till 6 or 7 in the morning and then come to Castries to work. But what I discovered, the dock in View Fort was very high. In those days, people loaded the bananas on their heads. They had the women loading the bananas. And they could only use 4 doors because the other 4 were too low down. But you know, because of my nature of being in my own business, I was thinking outside the box. And I said to my boss, who was a very nice gentleman, I said, look, we're wasting time because what we need, if we could push the ship a little further out and we can use all 8 doors, we can save time because a ship like that was like 150, 200,000 US dollars a day. And he was a very intelligent man. He understood what I was saying. And he designed some nice rulers. He designed it, not me. And he brought it in, had it made in England. And they took my advice and we saved 5 hours every week. So we have 52 weeks in the year. So multiply 5 hours by 52 weeks. Look at the time that we saved. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, time is money.
And you know, the hurtful part was, forget the money. I never even got a letter to say thank you. But people took that for granted. And then I said to myself, well, that's part of life for working for people. So it was an experience, and that was that. And I acquired more and more knowledge in the shipping business. And then one day I was quite fortunate in reading a geographic magazine where I saw in Europe they were encouraging people to sell ships at a very ridiculous price because they want to keep the shipyards going. So I went to my bank and I had not traveled very much, and I said to him, I would like to go to Europe. And he gave me the name of an agency in Holland. So I flew to Holland. I went up there. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw all these beautiful ships for sale. But the European government, as I said to you, encouraged them to sell their ships when they were 15 years old and build better ships. It kept the shipyards going. So I went and I bought my first ship in Holland in 1966. Yeah, in 1966. So 36 to 66 is what, 30 years? I just turned 30 when I bought my first real ship, a 400-ton ship. I brought it out. The same people that worked with me on the very ferry my father had, I brought them to Holland. Yeah. And
I love that.
Yeah. We came out and I brought the ship out. I had no contract at all. But as soon as I reached out, I went to Trinidad because I saw the boats carrying cargo were not very high-class boats. And I was able to convince the cement factory in Trinidad to give me a contract because they were sending 400 tons of cement a week to Barbados. They gave me a contract for 1 year. And the boat went to work, and the boat was very successful. And within a year, I wanted to expand that business further. I found out there was a nice ship in Suriname owned by the Dutch government that came for sale. So I went to Suriname, liked the ship, went to the bank and I said, look at me, I want to buy this ship. Here's my record in business and I want to borrow X million dollars, X whatever, 150,000 US dollars at the time, 800-ton ship. I got the loan, I took over the ship, again, a lot of, I don't use the word good fortune, but a lot of dots got connected to me very well because the captain who was on the ship down there was well connected. He was a fellow from Suriname. He gave me some connections and I got a lot of business for the boat. A lot of business. Then I realized that the Caribbean was too small for what I wanted to do with those ships because they were getting larger. And again, I met a lovely gentleman from Spain who was living in Puerto Rico. I took an instant liking to the guy. And I said to him, he said, look at me, you're wasting your time down there. Come and live in Puerto Rico. And you know, I took 90 days to make up my mind. Although I was well connected in St. Lucia, I left St. Lucia and went to live in Puerto Rico. Took my family and went to Puerto Rico. And I spent 5 years in Puerto Rico. One of the best moves of my life. I went up to Puerto Rico. I had just a visa. I rented a small place on a dock in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, it's really incredible country. They have you have, for instance, one dock here in Castries. Puerto Rico had 51 docks. 51 docks. So I was at one of the docks. And in Spanish, it was called Muelle Ocho, which is dock number 8. And I got friendly with the port officers, and they rented me a little office on the dock, probably 20 by 20. And it was myself, my wife, and one guy. And we ran the office there for 5 years. And then, in the 4th year, or the 3rd year, the business got bigger, so I moved into a lovely office across the road. And then I really wanted to make Puerto Rico my home. But I met quite a few Cubans in the stevedoring business, who I gave them all my business. And they were wonderful people. And I respect Cubans because they're good business people. And the 2 or 3 of them that I knew very well encouraged me to leave Puerto Rico and go and live in Florida. I didn't want to do that, but I said, you know, those people know their business. So I took their advice. So I went to Florida. And I regretted going to Florida. Yeah, I regretted going to Florida. I spent 1 year in Florida. I did not like Florida. So what did I do? I came back to St. Lucia for a short while and thought about my plans. In the interim, I still had my ships. I met a German guy once on a ship that was stranded in Puerto Rico, and he told me, look at me. I work for a company in New York who said they want to meet you. So I flew to New York, and I met this company called Kirsten Shipping, who had a beautiful office on Broadway, 52 Broadway. And they said to me, look, we followed your whole life. We think that we have something in common. We are brokers. You have ships. So why don't you come to New York? We'll give you an office, and you give us your business. We'll get the freight for you, and we make a lot of money on the commissions. So I looked around and I said, okay, and I moved to New York. Yeah, and I spent 12 years in New York. Yeah, quite interesting because these people were just brokers, but we got very, very friendly. They were very wealthy people, and they came to me and one day and said, look at me, we really want to get into the shipping business ourselves, but it wouldn't affect our relationship because it's a lot of risk. I said, no problem. So I encouraged, whenever they got a ship, I would go to Europe with them and examine the ships for them and guide them. And I used to get West Indian crew for them because I had 170 people working on my different ships. But I also had a formula. My formula was every ship that I bought, I would keep it for not more than 4 years. And it should pay for itself in that. And I would then sell it at what I bought it for. So whatever I made was the profit. It gave me enough money to expand because the ships got bigger. So fast track, over the years that I stayed in the shipping, which is a total of 18 years, when I think, I bought 19 ships. Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, before we leave, I can give you a photo of all the ships.
Yes,
And
I'd love that.
but I never kept more than 4 ships at a time. Yeah. And the ships got bigger, and because of my connections in New York, my trade became totally different. Our main port of loading was New Orleans, because in New Orleans, that's where all the grain of America is shipped out. So New Orleans probably ships out an average of 300,000 tons of grain a day. A day.
Wow.
Yeah. So you would go in, imagine that our ships were like 5,000 tons, and they could load us in 4 hours because you have these big chutes. So we used to take the grain from New Orleans and always go down to places like Barbados, Venezuela, and those countries that had flour mills that wanted the grain. So while we were down there, because these people had that down to a science, when we got down to places like Barbados and Venezuela, we would invariably head to Brazil. We used to go 800 miles up the Amazon. It wasn't very far. Just imagine, from Barbados to Brazil was just 2 days. Yeah. So we'd go up there, and Brazil is one of the biggest exporters of lumber in the world. So many ships would go there. So we would load like 6,000 tons of lumber. From there, we'd either go back to Charlestown, South Carolina, or New Orleans, or Mobile, Alabama, or Montreal. And then when we get there, we'd load again, because the beauty of the people I was with is that they are well connected. So they know that if I leave Brazil for Montreal, it will take me 8 days to get there, 3 days to discharge. So they had 11 days to find a cargo when I get there. And here's how they worked. There was something called a ticker machine that they subscribed to. They watch, in a certain part of the world, all the transactions. And they have people, 2 to 3 persons, specifically noting down all what is being sold in the world. If you buy cement or your lumber, so they know where everything is. So as soon as that is done, they can go to the owner and say, okay, fine, on the 15th of this month, I'll have a ship there, a 7th, we can take your cargo for you. They sign a contract, so when they go up there, they get 5, 6, 7% commission on my freight. So we never really stopped. It was an incredible situation, very incredible. And it went on like that. And then I was happy to be able to load cargoes in the US and go to all parts of Central America. Like we used to go down to, first of all, to Barbados, Venezuela, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Ecuador. On the other side, Panama. We go through the Panama Canal and take these cargoes. What I loved once was you had 2 contracts which I really enjoyed. One, when I first went to Panama and going through the Panama Canal, it was just simply amazing. And we would take, imagine there was a big cement company in Panama. I would take like 2,000 tons of cement. I go down on the Pacific side to go to Peru. We would load there, and when we get there, because on the Pacific side there's a lot of fish, because of the current up and down, a lot of fish, a lot. So they have a big fish plant in Peru. I would take fish meal, 3,000 tons, and bring back to Panama. Yeah. Right? Another interesting part that happened when I was in Panama was one day, besides lumber, Brazil is the largest coffee grower in the region. And imagine that no country can sell coffee without the permission of Brazil. Just like, it's like OPEC. They control the market. They control the market. And I remember, I think it was in the 80s, late 70s, there was a big problem in Brazil with the crop, and the production went down. So they allowed other countries to sell coffee to New York. And we were able, through my brokers, to get a contract to move 50,000 tons of coffee, 50,000 tons of coffee from Ecuador to New York. Wow. And Brazil fixed the price that they could sell the coffee at, which is a very high price. So to be able to get at that price, everything had to be high, including the freight. So we got a very unusual freight payment for that. It was, I would say, 35% above the normal freight we were getting. Oh, wow. But they said that was the terms under which they had to take it, which suited me fine. So when my first trip, I was actually discharging a cargo in Mobile, Alabama, and my first trip was from Mobile, Alabama to Ecuador. I went down to empty, down to Ecuador, transit the Panama Canal, load. It took me 30 days to go from anywhere, New York or Mobile, to Ecuador and back and discharge. 30 days. And the remuneration was incredible. So I made about 8 trips like that. And I remember when I made my first trip to New York, my brother lived in New Jersey, and my elder brother, and he heard I was coming to New York. He said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Look, you have to be very careful, because on the docks in New York, you have the worst mafia people in the world." Yeah. But for me, myself and my brother were different people. My brother was a professional, I was a business person. I was very open to anything I did in life because I consider it a lesson to be learned. So, when I got up to New York, I remember going to this small office and they had these guys working, and the mafia guys, they do 2 things in New York. They handle all the garbage and they handle all the stevedoring. Nobody can get into that business. It's like a syndicate. And, you know, they worked. I met them. I had coffee with them. There was no problem at all. It's not my business. So after 8 months, 8 trips I made, I got very friendly with the guys. When I was finished the contract, they said to me, "What are you going to do with that ship when you finish?" I said, "Well, I already tramp." A tramp means you take cargo. They said, "We like you, we'll help you." And they gave me a connection in Montreal, which was incredible. Discovered then that the World Food in Rome used to send about 10,000 tons of food free to the Latin American countries that were, I wouldn't say starving, but not doing well. Guatemala, Honduras, and those places, Ecuador, Nicaragua. So they paid a handsome freight, so we would take like 7,000 tons of food from Montreal and deliver in all these countries. Then they paid us a very high rate, and we would have to cross the Panama Canal and end up on the Pacific side. Okay. So
just before you continue, let's take a short break. And yes, so we will be back with Against All Odds.
PAX is the agent for Caribbean Line, which offers an effective alternative for global integrative of transport logistics from Sheerness, UK to View Fort St. Lucia in shipping, documentation, administrative procedure, loading and unloading operations. We also offer courier, small package service, customs brokerage, ship agency, freight forwarder, consolidator, and accounting services. Visit them today on New Dock Road, Beaufort, or call 454-1200 or 719-8837. PAX is effective, efficient, and reliable.
Real estate transactions are now made easy. Whether buying, selling, or renting residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, or touristic property, we offer the best deals in real estate transactions with professional support, including valuation, material sourcing, and construction. Contact Ed Harris and Associates, your courteous and efficient real estate agents. Call 485-1456 or email carrotbiz@gmail.com.
Do you need to copy or print your document? Are you in need of insurance? Are you looking for office stationery? Stop. Yes, LMP Services on Clark Lane, View Fort has all the services you need. They open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or call 454-8757 or 721-8757 for affordable rates, reliable and effective customer service with a difference.
Ernesto's Auto Parts, located on the Labrie-Vifford Highway, is your place for auto parts. We have suspension parts, mounts, brakes, shocks, and so much more.
We specialize in accessories like mats, batteries, horns, lubricants, and much more.
We're open from Mondays to Saturdays from 8 to 5 and Sundays and most holidays from 8 to 1.
L'opri, Ernesto kay dey pou you.
What do you need to transport? Call the hauler. At M&E's Trucking, we offer a wide range of services island-wide. From containerized movement, flatbed service, and lowboy transfers. We're located at Beanfield View Fort. Our skillful professional drivers are ready to serve you. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram or email us at vibration711@gmail.com. Call us at 488-1000. We're ready to serve you. M&E's Trucking Service, a powerhouse ready to haul.
Thank you once again for staying with us with Against All Odds, and we are here chatting with Sir Michael Shastney, and you were telling us about
Yes.
The trip.
Ending up, yes. We would take the cargoes in Montreal and the food and deliver it to all the countries, and usually Nicaragua was the last one on the Pacific side. But again, we were well compensated because they know there's a cost to go through the Panama Canal, which is quite expensive. In those days, to go through and come back was about $5,000 US. So that was taken into consideration. So I was already on the Pacific side, but being a business person, trying to make use of every facility that you have, and that's what business is all about, I found out that Nicaragua had a big lumber yard on the Pacific side, and they could only ship to places on the Pacific side and not so much the Caribbean because the high cost of passing through the Panama Canal. But I was already there.
Yeah.
So what I did is I went to Trinidad and spoke to some people there who used to employ 4,000 tons of lumber at a time. Trinidad is a big place. And I got the company in Nicaragua to talk to Trinidad, and I was able to sell their lumber for them, and I got the business. So since I was there, I had a return cargo, because when you travel empty and you're carrying air, you don't make any money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So that became very successful. Then nothing stays forever in life. Then what happened, many West Indians who never went to Europe to buy a ship, I guess, I don't want to say copied me, but they started buying ships too. So the competition started to come and freight started to go down a little bit, and we decided to move further afield. So we got a very good contract one day to move grain from New Orleans to Nigeria. Now, that is 31 days to get there. It's a long trip. But again, we were well paid. Why were we well paid? Because we took this grain to a place called Sapele in Africa, and imagine that. The road from Nigeria to Sapele was so bad that the trucks could not traverse it, and they couldn't get the grain. But if you had a ship that had a low draft, in other words, didn't draw a lot of water, and we would take those cargoes from New Orleans, it actually paid them to bring the cargo from New Orleans straight up to the factory. So we would stop off in Nigeria, take a pilot, and go 25 to 30 miles up the river and discharge. So we started doing that, and that was quite a good business by bringing grain there. And then again, because of my connections in New York, when we were finished there, from Nigeria, we would go straight to Brazil. And that only took us about 7 days. And then we would take lumber, go back to New Orleans, go back to Nigeria again. That went on. And then things changed again. Then later on, when we would take grain, say from New Orleans down to Venezuela, we then found out that we could actually go to Brazil in a place called Santos and take lumber from there to Cape Town, South Africa. So we started doing that. And one of the reasons we got a very good freight, because many ship owners had joined the commercial group not to service South Africa because of the apartheid, to put pressure when they had the situation with blacks and whites over there. So some companies had to do the work, and there a company in Brazil that chartered us to go from Santos. We would drop the cargo in there, and strange enough, when we got to Cape Town, South Africa, because of the fact that they couldn't move their goods, we actually used to go to the Indian Ocean, a place called Durban. We would load food there, actually food, because South Africa is very well developed. And we used to bring food to Africa from Durban. And we did that for about a whole year, year and a half. And I remember the first time we went there, it was quite horrific what we saw, because we used to go to a place called Abidjan, and funny enough, that's when the Cubans sent over 11,000 Cubans to fight a war in Abidjan to help the people in Africa against the South Africans, because there was a confusion going on there. But they were starving. When we got in there, I'll never forget, the ship we went in, we had 5,000 tons of cargo on board. And the people came, the stevedores, we thought they just came on the ship. You won't believe this thing. And they stole 5,000 tons of food. They were so hungry. Yeah. And also what we noticed there were several hundred Cubans that were killed in the war, and they were actually put the Cuban on the cold storage ships and send them back to Cuba. Yeah. So it was an interesting situation, but that was a part of our business. We didn't do that for very long. And then, of course, later on, we reverted back to the US, where traffic became normal. It was almost 18 years. I was then 48 years of age, and I said, that's it. And I told my people in New York, I'm done with all of that. And they were surprised. Why are you doing that? I said, well, we have to know when to get in and when to get out. And I had enough of shipping. I didn't like what was going on in the world, so I sold the ships. Came back to St. Lucia and having seen abroad the number of things that I felt St. Lucia needed, like shopping mall. The first shopping mall was built by me, which is Gaywood Shopping Mall. I built that in 1980, okay? And I built the first supermarket St. Lucia ever had, yeah, and which was across at Gablewoods. And again, when I came here, I went to the local firms, the primary one being J.Q. Charles was the biggest company, and they declined coming to rent from me a supermarket. They said they have enough of their own property, they don't rent from people, and there was nobody who wanted to rent. So I went to Barbados and got a guy called Mr. Neville Rowe, who had a supermarket in Barbados called Julian's.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
remember? And I asked him if he'd come, and he came here, he looked around, he said, yeah, I'll come, because he said there's no competition, there's no supermarket in St. Lucia. And he built the first supermarket here, and it was very tastefully done. And I remember the first day we opened that place, every grocery store was empty in St. Lucia. We had to get police to control the traffic there, because we were just overwhelmed by the business. And the place progressed very well, and the gentleman did very well, and the mall did very well as a result of that. The next thing that happened was 2 years later, no, not less than 2 years, could be 2 years, that when the gentleman was taking his cash to the bank, some bandits ambushed the people right across on the road there at around 10 o'clock one night, 11 o'clock one night. They shot the manager in his neck, and the assistant manager had to get over 90 stitches. I was at a function one night when they opened the Sandals Hotel on the top, and somebody said to me, look, there's been a shooting at your mall. So I said to myself, well, if that is true, they have to be at the hospital. So instead of coming up there, I went straight to the hospital, and I saw all those people there, and they told me the story. So the following morning, I went and I saw the people in bad condition. So I managed to talk to the doctors and get them to agree to put them on a Liat plane on a stretcher, bring them to Barbados, and had the people attended to. About 6 months later, around 3 o'clock in the morning, bandits went into the supermarket again and took away the manager from her home, made her open the vault and all that thing. So the owner said, look, I'm not staying in St. Lucia anymore. So he closed the supermarket. I tried my best to get him to reopen it. He said no. He said, look, I can't expose my people to that kind of criminality. So I couldn't get somebody to buy it. So I went to the bank and arranged a loan and bought the supermarket and brought in a cousin of mine as the accountant, and the two of us ran it for 6 months. But after 6 months, the guy was so competent, I left it to him. Fast track, we stayed in the business for 21 years, and we did 15 supermarkets. We built, well, the one here we bought over. We built Mega J's. We built Rodney Heights. We took over J.Q. Charles because they were failing. We took over GL Foods, they were failing. We built took over J.Q. in Vieux-Fort. We built our own in Vieux-Fort. We went to Cul-de-Sac. Prime Minister of St. Vincent called me. He had problems there. We took over 3 supermarkets. We redid it. And Grenada called us and said, we went there, we did supermarkets also. And we were running 15 supermarkets. Yeah. We had 2,500 people working for us then. So, again, the time has come when we had to move on. We sold to Massey. Massey were minority shareholders in our business, and they were interested in buying us out, so we made a deal and we sold to them, and we went our merry way. But, you know, there were other things that were done in St. Lucia too, because we did the supermarket in St. Lucia, because having lived in New York and those places, I saw people putting up steel structures. And when I came back here, people were still building with concrete pillars, you know, and that was passé. So when I built the mall, I did it with a steel structure, and I built 1 or 2 warehouses. And the owners, the people in Barbados, when I started buying from them, they said, well, look at me, you're buying all that from them. Do you think there's an opportunity? He said, yes. Would you be our partner? So I said, fine. So I became a third shareholder with them, and that's how Caribbean Metals was formed. And it still goes on today. Yeah. And you know, one thing leads to another in life, you know. And where else did I miss out again? So that was my life really as a grown-up individual. And what more can I say, you know?
Well,
And here I am today.
yes,
Yeah.
you mentioned, well, two things I want to touch on. You mentioned when you were growing up. We didn't delve into it much because we started when you were growing up, when you were younger,
Yes.
as a young boy.
Yes.
I remember reading that you had to leave school at a certain age.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Yeah. Okay. You can always fix it up in your thing. When I when I went to college at age 10, my eldest brother took me to school, and I never saw him again because he left the country the next day. Because when he went away, he couldn't afford to come back. I left school at 16 years of age. I do not have a university degree. I do not have a university degree. I just did my 3 or 4 GCs. That's what I had. And because while I was at school, between age 10 and 16, my father had this ferry, and he had small bills to collect. And I used to go and do that from between 12 and 1 o'clock. Yeah. So when I left school, as I said, then I went into, but you know, but going back to even by the age of 10 and 16, as I said, we lived in Castries. Our biggest thing was going to the Columbus Square and meeting some friends around. We'd go there from 6 to 8 at night, have a chat, and I would go back home. Yeah, that was the sum total because we really did not have a lot to do. As I said, my family came from very humble beginnings. You know, really, really. I mean, my father worked in government all his life, getting £35 a month, and he had to feed 10 children. So, you know, we made do with everything. But my mother had this bakery, and fortunately for her, a couple of years after she opened it, and the war came, which is World War II, and my father then had left government and took a job working for a company called Melville and Chasney. He was in charge of the hardware and grocery. And when the war started, the people wanted provisions for all the soldiers that were. They had about roughly 1,500 British soldiers and about 1,000, same one, Americans on island. The Americans were in Beaufort, the British were in the Castries. So they had to buy bread, and there were not too many bakeries. And my father was able to get a contract from my mother to supply 600 pounds of bread a day in weight. And I remember as a young boy, this army truck would come home in the morning with 4 or 5 soldiers in a big army truck, and they would have 5 of them, and they'd throw these pan loaves and load the truck every morning. Yeah. So we got quite friendly with those people, and that really helped my mother a lot. And these were the days to see how everything sort of blossomed through a little bit of luck here and a little bit of luck there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Over the years, while I was in business, a lot of my brothers who were studying, things were difficult with them. As I made some money, 3 of my brothers, I actually paid their tuition for them, yeah, over the years, because they were quite good academically, yeah, and far more academic than I was. But the Lord gives us different things to do, and the Lord makes you do certain things in your life. So, and I've always believed in helping people, because it was no skin off my back. What I was making, I could afford to do it for them. Yeah. I'm very proud of them, what they have done. My eldest brother, who went away, who took me to school, I think as I grew up, I saw him maybe twice in my life after that. When I was in the shipping, I saw him in the States. He was an elderly guy then. He first became a dentist, then a doctor, and a radiologist. Yeah, that's my first brother. My second brother, whom I helped, he studied in France. He became he went to France and studied medicine in France, studied French there, became a doctor in France. My other brother went to school in, he couldn't get into university, the university was filled, so he had to study German and studied in a place called Freiburg, and I paid for him, and he did very well for himself too. I skipped one brother who had gone away, and he was able to get a government scholarship. So, as I say, my eldest brother had three professions. He was a doctor, a dentist, a radiologist. The second one was a doctor and an eye surgeon. The third one was in England. He became an engineer, civil engineer, went to the States, got married, and he went to MIT, got his master's degree, did very well as an engineer. He was one of those building the World Trade Center. He used to do the foundation work. And my last brother, as I said, he went to Germany. He studied there. I had a sister, she studied, she became a teacher. One became an optician. One became a nurse. And that was it. And we had a very good relationship with my family. Although I didn't see a lot of them because they all went away, they all remained away. I was really the only one in St. Lucia. In the later years, as he got older, my brother, who was a surgeon, came back, and he actually lived at my shopping center in Beaufort, and he opened an eye surgery office there. He was there for 5 years, but he passed away. And that was it. So, for me, when I look back at my past, I have nothing but happiness to remember. I never wanted a hell of a lot in life. It just happened, and then, the part which I forgot to tell you about was my own children. When I got married, it was Alan, who's presently the Prime Minister, and my other daughter, Fiola. They both went to I took them to school in Puerto Rico. We spent 5 years in Puerto Rico, and then they both became bilingual because they picked up the Spanish very quickly. From Puerto Rico, I moved. Remember, I went to Florida. I didn't stay there too long. They went to school in Florida for 1 year, and then Alan went to. He didn't want to. He said he wanted to go to boarding school. That's what he felt like. So when he was 14, I sent him to school in Canada. He went to a place called Stansted College. He did very well there. From there, he went to Bishop's University. He did extremely well there. And then he came back. He was director of tourism. He worked with Air Jamaica. He worked with... And then when I moved to New York, and after he graduated from Canada, he then went back to study. He went to American University in Washington, and I moved to Washington for about 1.5 years. I was there with him because I was able to run my business from Washington also, because once I had a telephone, that's what I needed. And he did his master's degree, and while he was sitting his exam, he actually got an offer. There was a gentleman called Mr. Lestrade, who was the director of a company in Washington called ESIPS, Eastern Caribbean Promotion Service. Okay. And Mr. Lestrade knew of him, and the American government wanted a dynamic person, and he felt that Alan would have suited the job. I was actually sitting in the exam, but I had to get an answer that day. So I called the dean of the university and said, look, I know it's kind of difficult, but this is quite a good promotion for him if he can get this job. He said, well, he's doing his exam. I said, well, if he can get a half an hour, if to call the guy, and the dean arranged for him to call, and he arranged to meet the guy the next day. His exams are over, and he got the job. He was the deputy director of ESIPS, principal office in Washington, paid a handsome salary. I think he worked there for 2 years before moving on, but that was a good experience for him. My daughter, she although we didn't stay in Florida, I sent her to a very good school in Florida, because I always told my children, education is key in life. Education is like having a passport. If you don't have a passport, you can't enter another country. If you don't have an education, the doors will not open. I kind of drilled that into them, and that it was important that they sacrifice themselves to get a good education. Because they may not have been as fortunate as me with the business acumen, but plus the fact in those years it was easier to get around. But in my case, a lot of it was a lot of luck to right and timing, okay? And not everybody is fortunate to get those things. So my daughter went to school in Florida, and when she finished, most of the students tend to go to New York to school, so she went to New York to a very good school called Manhattanville College. After she graduated there, she wanted a job, and she was friendly with a girl who was going to work with Good Morning America. And she said, you know, I wish I were that girl to get that job at Good Morning. And the girl got very ill and could not go to the job. And she got the job at Good Morning America and went there. And I think she worked 6 months for them. But she said to me, Dad, I love journalism, but that's not for me, because that's a slave's job. You have to be up at 2, 3 in the morning. It's not what I want out of life. So I said, well, you know, don't do what you don't like. So there's a St. Lucian guy called Mr. Matre, who's in charge of the tourist board in New York. And I said to him, do you have any openings? He said, well, your daughter is well qualified. The opening we have is for somebody low. I said, well, let her start at the bottom. So she went in. She liked what she did. And it so happened that while she was in New York, he was evidently satisfied with her. An opening came in London at the tourist board. And he said to her, well, look at me. The job you're doing here is sort of a menial job, but would you like? And she said yes. So she went to London, and she was very fortunate when she got there that the person who was there left or something like that, and she continued in that job. And the government were happy with her, and I think they're the ones that arranged it for her, the government. She went into a top university in the UK, called University of Surrey, which was really top class for tourism. So she went there, and she did her marketing degree in tourism. And when she came out of it, that about maybe 6, 7 months afterwards, that war in Iraq started, and she got a big job with WTO, which is the World Tourism Organization, and she worked there for 2 years, and she got a lot of experience, and then she decided that she had some friends in California, so she moved to California and opened her own business, and after 2 years, she said when she compared the lifestyle between the UK and America, she preferred to be in London. So she went back to London, and she had her own business there, and then today she's still on her own. And, you know, so, but I tend to support the children when it came to education, all through their school years, ensure that they were happy at the schools, that if they had serious problems, I had a very good relationship. Their mother was also very good to them, very instrumental. But I try to keep in touch with them because, you know, you have difficulties all the time. You go to school, you find you have a master that doesn't like you or a professor doesn't like you, and you can go through, you can have those downswings in life, and you have to be there to tell them, look at me, that's part of life, you know, just keep it going, it's not going to be forever. And here I am today, you know, in the twilight of my years.
I like that. But you said something. You said you have to know when to get in and you have to know when to get out.
Yes.
What determines that for you? What determines that decision of getting in or getting out?
What message?
What determines that for
What
you?
determines that? Okay, that's a good question. What determines that is the fact that in life, when you're being successful, everything seems to be going your way. Then all of a sudden, you see challenges that were never there seem to be mounting. And that comes in as a result of the changing times. I'll give you one example. For instance, let us take people. Maybe when I first started, you had people who had a different temperament, how they worked with an employer. But because of changing times, I give you one perfect example. When I was in Puerto Rico, diesel for the ships was something like, when I buy in Venezuela, was 25 cents a gallon. When OPEC went on strike and they increased the price to 10 times what it was, it became $2.50 a gallon. What did that do? It sent a message to the world, and people were scrunting for money because the cost of living just shot up and salaries didn't go up. So then you had a lot of, I wouldn't call it total unrest, and people were unhappy, and these difficulties translate into businesses, not only like mine, but everybody's business. So a new aura comes over your business that changes the format and retards your growth. So you say, well, okay, fine, that business is not doing as well, and then you have to make a determination whether you're going to stay in it. Like, take something I forgot to mention too, and take the shipping business. When we started, one of the reasons why it started to become tight is because the Europeans realized that all small people like ourselves who were buying ships, they had to get back that business. Now, they couldn't compete with us because if I had a 5,000-ton ship, that sounds big in here, but that's small in Europe. Ships are 50,000 tons, 70,000 tons. So what they did, the Europeans and the Americans, they said, we will get those guys. We're going to go into the container business. So they built thousands of containers and put them in different countries. And if you want 1 ton of cargo today in Venezuela, you can order it. It's put into a container. It's consolidated. They drop it at a different location. It ends up in St. Lucia. So this is the cargo that we used to get. But because they are being carried now in containers, it is much better than us, because when we loaded, say, foodstuffs, we would load on pallets. You have flour on pallets. Today, they put 50 tons, a container can take 40 or 50 tons. They put 40 tons in a container. So nobody can, it remains intact. It doesn't get soil and nothing at all. And that container comes and is put on a truck and brought right to your business house. So we couldn't compete with that. In addition to that, what they did, because the price of fuel had gone so high, fuel comes in different grades. You have light oil, crude oil, and something called bunker C. Bunker C is the sludge, the mud. So that's 1/3 the price of fuel. But they had engines that they designed with special valves and heaters to heat that thing up to very high temperatures so they could burn it to bring it down to a liquid form. But these engines were expensive. Yeah, correct. Because and you needed high-class engineers at very high salaries to maintain those kind of engines. That was out of our depths. So you see, everything is for a time. So I told, for instance, many people who are in the shipping business with me to get out. Some of them stayed and survived, but a lot went under. Yeah. So my theory is, apart from these facts that prevail, nothing lasts forever in life. Everything's just for a time. And look at today with the pandemic. Things are going to change in St. Lucia tremendously, tremendously. Because what is going to happen now, a lot of people are going to be working from home. Office space will go down, okay? You're going to have Zoom calls. Travel will go down, okay? Because the money they were spending to travel to go to New York, they'll have a Zoom call. You see? Hotels will be affected. Fewer people will be going.
Airlines.
So,
Yeah.
and but that is what you call evolution. It's an evolution. Yeah. So in business, you have to be ever cognizant of those facts, because you have to know when you go into a business, not that you're being pessimistic. Nothing lasts forever in life. Nothing lasts forever. So, you know, that is it. So, as a business person, that format still exists today. It definitely still exists today. But the thing is, on a higher scale, you know, I mean, look at, for instance, what I just read recently. Take Apple. Apple shares have quadrupled. Why? Because of people using their phones to work at home. So they're having more smartphones now to
more
do many
devices,
things,
yep.
right? You know, so it's a high-tech business. So again, a lot of people who made money in offices may be in trouble. Yeah, and so that is it. I don't know.
Since we're along that line, and since we're along the lines of encouraging,
Yes.
so when we do come back, we're going to take our last break, and when we do come back, we want to discuss what advice you would have for young entrepreneurs,
Yes.
or just persons who are in business or are interested in getting into business,
Yeah.
as to the way forward.
Yeah.
So we will be right back. Of course, this is Against All Odds, and we are discussing the life of Sir Michael Shastney. Stay with us.
PAX is the agent for Caribbean Line, which offers an effective alternative for global integrative of transport logistics from Sheerness, UK to View Fort St. Lucia in shipping, documentation, administrative procedure, loading and unloading operations. We also offer courier, small package service, customs brokerage, ship agency, freight forwarder, consolidator, and accounting services. Visit them today on New Dock Road, Beaufort, or call 454-1200 or 7198837. PAX is effective, efficient, and reliable.
Real estate transactions are now made easy. Whether buying, selling, or renting residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, or touristic property, we offer the best deals in real estate transactions with professional support, including valuation, material sourcing, and construction. Contact Ed Harris and Associates, your courteous and efficient real estate agents. Call 485-1456 or email carrotbiz@gmail.com.
Do you need to copy or print your document? Are you in need of insurance? Are you looking for office stationery? Stop. Yes, LMP Services on Clark Lane, Beaufort has all the services you need. They open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or call 454-8757 or 721-8757 for affordable rates, reliable and effective customer service with a difference.
Ernesto's Auto Parts, located on the Labrie-Viford Highway, is your place for auto parts. We have suspension parts, mounts, brakes, shocks, and so much more.
We specialize in accessories like mats, batteries, horns, lubricants, and much more.
We're open from Mondays to Saturdays from 8 to 5 and Sundays and most holidays from 8 to 1.
Lò ou pri, an esto kay de pou yo.
What do you need to transport? Call the hauler. At M&E's Trucking, we offer a wide range of services island-wide. From containerized movement, flatbed service, and lowboy transfers. We're located at Beanfield View Fort. Our skillful professional drivers are ready to serve you. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram or email us at vibration711@gmail.com. Call us at 488-1000. We're ready to serve you. M&E's Trucking Service, a powerhouse ready to haul.
Thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, my name is Kishma Serieux, and we are here with Sir Michael Chasney. And as we close, Mr. Chasney, we really you've had the experience of years of being in business. You've had the experience of success and failures. You've had the experience of falling and getting up and falling and getting up. And as it stands now, what do you see happening? What would you like to see happening with entrepreneurs, with the country, just moving forward? We would love some advice from you.
Yeah. What I would like to see, and for the good of young people coming up today, is that many St. Lucians who say, for instance, we have 9,500 employees in the government today, service, okay? Mm-hmm. I say to most of those individuals, don't make the civil service a career, because the education that has been given to St. Lucians today is really quite good, okay? I'm not saying it's the best in the world, but there are a lot of intelligent St. Lucians today. My advice today is that with your intelligence, you need to find out what areas that you'd love to do. And not love for the money. Love within yourself, what you'd be happy doing. You need to follow that love and address those areas as a plan B in whatever job you have today, because eventually that thought could be your life savior. Because then you don't have to rely on people for a job, or as you get age moves very quickly. Because at my age today of 85, I can still remember what I was doing at 16 years of age. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I sit back and wonder where the hell those years went to. I cannot believe how far. So it goes very, very quickly. So to avoid any disappointments in life, you're working for somebody, try and get that plan B. Have that second job always in your back pocket, okay? Because it does two things. It gives you an extra, and also it's a form of security. Yeah, that is one aspect. The other aspect I see is that life is changing very quickly. And with the virus, it has accelerated that change, because it has forced people to do things they'd never imagined they would have to do. And that is working from home. Mm-hmm. When you look at, for instance, at the call centers today, 40% of people are working at home. Yep. In my opinion, that's going to continue. So what you need to do, while you're working from home, it gives you a bit more time to think, because it's important to get out of the house. So you cannot sleep in a house and work in a house all the time. There has to be the happy medium. So you have to find out now how you're going to get that window of happiness to be out of the house, because your house is going to be becoming your workplace, or whether you're going to have close to your home or within your home a special little area for an office which you're going to lock after 5 o'clock, because it is not healthy to work at home and live at home. It's very bad, in my opinion. There has to be that dividing line. The other areas that I think our people need to concentrate on, thank goodness today we have, I discussed with you earlier, online shopping. Now, online shopping does a number of things, because it also allows you to become a representative of a commodity. For example, a person with ability, I give you an example, okay, who feels today, I may be just talking off my head, but a technically minded individual would know, for instance, what a good smartphone is, or good smart television, okay? Or, for that matter, another kind of commodity which you think that we'll always need in St. Lucia. And you become a representative, an agent for that piece of equipment, and you service it. Now, why do I say that to you? As a result of what I just read only last week, although I knew about it before, was the life of Mr. Stuart Sandals. How did he start? I remember him telling me he started by selling air conditioning units. Right?
Yes.
And what he told me, that if an AC gave a problem at 2 o'clock in the morning, he was told by his customers, call me 24/7. He would have people go out at 2 o'clock in the morning and fix it. And I never realized until I got a part of his story last week, where he became the largest purchaser of air conditioning for a particular company, okay? And they sold to nobody else in Jamaica but him, okay? Now, what did he do? The money which he made on that, he invested it in a hotel that nobody wanted at the time. Why did they not want it? Because the hotel was next to an airport and there was too much noise going on. But what did he do? When he bought the hotel, he said to his guests, now let me tell you all something. All the planes that are taken off, if you tell me the name of the aircraft, how many passengers you think it carries, and he put some questions, I give you 1 week's holiday for free. Who wins?
Wow.
You see? Now, he was a genius at marketing. But because he marketed well, he didn't make his money on marketing. He went to the hotel business that made him make the money on marketing. And he became, as his son, during his eulogy, said, my father is in heaven, and I guarantee you, he'll make heaven an all-inclusive place. So there are a lot of areas that people can work on in life. So this is an example of him choosing and doing. And what I find St. Lucians tend to do, which is wrong, they start one business and they just go into another business when the business is doing well. You need to be consistent. You need to stay at that business, perfect it, become an expert at it. Because you can't do everything. And once you're doing things correctly, people will come to you.
I think it was Albert Einstein who says mastery demands all of a person.
Come again?
I think it was Albert Einstein who
Yes.
said mastery demands all of a person.
Correct.
So you need to stay there and master your particular craft.
And another thing he said, Einstein, is that if you are doing something and it's wrong and you don't change it, it will not change. You have to change,
Yes.
okay? And that's a big thing now, that the pandemic is going to bring out a level of change. We have to change. I couldn't tell you at my age everything that's going to happen. But there are young guys now, far brighter than me, technically minded, who know what they can do. Look, you can take, for instance, a child today of 8 years of age, and they can operate a smartphone better than me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they can fix the television. When I see what they're doing in seconds, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, you know, there are a lot of opportunities, and these people will find themselves, and they have to be alert, watch the companies that are in certain businesses, and what, for instance, we have a small hotel, and here's what I'm going to tell you. What do we need all the time? We need technicians all the time for our accounting, okay? We cannot live without that. Cannot live without it. So anybody in that field, what's it called again? What is that? There's a word for it anyway.
Logistics?
Huh?
Logistics?
No. I'll get, the word will come back in a while. But to be able to, for instance, you want also to book your customers online, okay? What you're going to offer them, yeah. The car rental business, you can go now, before people come to St. Lucia, they book your cars. You can do that, although a lot of people can do it, but if you do it properly, okay? Like, before the cruise ship went into difficulties, you would be surprised to know how many St. Lucians bypass the agents in St. Lucia and go directly. They found out who the passengers are and say, okay, fine, I know you're Mr. Brown, you're arriving in St. Lucia, so I'm saying to you, I will be on the dock, I have a speedboat, I can take 10 people to Sufra, this is my price. Cut off the middleman. Yeah. You see? Airbnb. Do you know how many Airbnb rooms St. Lucia has today? 2,500. Can you imagine that? 2,500 rooms. So Airbnb has more rooms than their hotel rooms in St. Lucia. Right? And where are you doing? At your home. At your home. Right? Which is fantastic because the tourism dollar is now filtering to the ordinary man. That's a big business. Big business. And how do you do it? Again, from online and getting to know those things, find out how it starts. So there's really no need for a basic and intelligent person to starve today or to be out of pocket. There's so many areas open that didn't exist before. Yeah. Because normally when somebody was an agent for a ship, they made all the money. They were agent and they come in and they say, okay, fine, you go on this tour and that. Every tour company in St. Lucia that you send a passenger to, they pay, for instance, we pay hotels as much as 30%. If I'm selling a tour, say on if I have a catamaran and it costs $100 US to go to Sufra, I have to pay the person who gives me the business $30 US. So, and what is their expense? Their expense is getting hold and having the proper computer systems to do those things. You put a few, you buy the brochures, we give them our brochures, and we still have to pay them again. Yeah. So all, for instance, take by the Sandals Grand. You know how many people from Sufra and Castries who have speedboats, 10, 50 of them, taking out 20, 30 people a day. They have a hell of a revenue. Yeah. What they have to do is control what they're doing. For instance, one mistake that they're making, which should not be allowed in St. Lucia, a lot of those boats take people out with gasoline engines. Gas is expensive, and gas engines are not the best. They should be diesel engines, okay? And in Martinique, for instance, no tourist is allowed to go out on gas. You know what I saw right at this house? I was in Europe many years ago, and I came back here on a Friday. On the Saturday morning, I was sleeping here, and I heard this explosion. I went out, I looked everywhere, I saw nothing. Nothing. See, but that's funny, and no one heard this explosion. Let us fast track. The Sandals boat with gasoline engines had 20 people on board. They went to start the engine. It wasn't starting because the battery was weak. They didn't put the clips properly. A spark came. There was gas in the bit. It blew up. And the 20 people were thrown in there and all died. All died. Planes had to be moving people to hospitals all about the place. Yeah. So, you know.
Where was this?
Sorry?
Where was this?
Here at Sandal.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right here. That's about maybe 35 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But again, about 2 years ago, there were some people working for the same Sandals, and their boats were in the marina, and going to pick up people one day, it got blown up. And the bellows jumped in the sea. So it is something that, again, you have to change in life from gasoline to diesel and to be proficient in what you're doing. Yeah. Because right now, those people going on their tours, there are many tours in St. Lucia, they have choices. Yeah. So you can offer different things. People want good souvenirs. They're looking for something local. They don't want stuff from China, which is what they have in all the islands. Think of something. There's so many areas. Yeah. Because, you know, when you have, prior to the pandemic, you're talking of 500,000 tourists coming by plane and 500,000 by cruise ships. Yeah? That's 1 million people coming into St. Lucia. Okay?
Every year.
Yeah. Have a nice T-shirt made in St. Lucia, handmade here. Yeah. For instance, when you look at people, I always say that doing carvings in St. Lucia, the days of taking a knife and cutting a coconut, you get a machine that can do that thing. You can do 10 in a day instead of 2 in a day. You know what I mean? Because they have the ability, but they need the tools to do it. Okay? A lot of areas to make a dollar. And that is why, no matter what people say to you, tourism is really the answer in the world, not in St. Lucia. The world cannot live without tourism. Let me tell you something. Without tourism, here's what's going to happen. The planes will not have enough work to do. The hotels in New York and London, what are they going to do? In London today, with all the manufacturing, tourism is the biggest product. Yeah. So when people talk about that, yeah. And what happens? Tourism and agriculture go hand in hand because the tourists are buying your food. Right now, that's why the farmers have problems, because the hotels are not buying. I did a little survey when we were in the supermarket business. Between the supermarket, the 10 or 12 supermarkets we had in St. Lucia, and Sandals, we're buying half what farmers supplied. What did we do also? But there are some people in the business people, that have to put their best foot forward. Like, for instance, we inherited that in all fairness, old man J.Q. Charles, who always had a special interest in farmers. But we elaborated on that when we took them over. What we did, we put, I think, $1 or $2 million in a special account. So the farmers who had the little pumps and gadgets for watering, if they needed some money, we lent them money to buy a pump, and we deducted the money when they brought the things together. So to make life easier, and they showed that somebody was doing, and that still goes on today. Yeah. So there are really so many areas that people can evolve around. Yeah. It's just a matter of opening your brain.
Fantastic. Yeah. Mr. Shasney, thank you so much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I feel more informed as a result.
Yeah, wonderful to be. There's a lot more could have been said, but it would take too long, you know? Yeah. I could have gone through the early stages of life. We had the little trials and tribulations, but it was important to see where I came from in St. Lucia as And I remember when I sat in New York one day, it hit me. I said, hold on a while. I was born in Castries, St. Lucia. I never left St. Lucia till I was 18, ran a few little boats, and here am I sitting in a posh office on 52 Broadway, working with high-class people from Germany, where they build ships, and they're asking me to help them to run a ship. So it really meant a lot to me, yeah. And that inspires you and gives you a little more umph in life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
It has certainly done that for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all being here.
Yes. And thank you so much for tuning in to us
Yeah.
on Against All Odds. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and like Mr. Shastny said, know when to get in and know when to get out.
Yeah. And I say it's a pleasure to be here, because when I met the gentleman who does this, I'm so impressed with him for what he does,
Yes.
and also what he's doing, not only for St. Lucia, but for the Prime Minister, to air his views, to get it out. It means a lot. He's totally non-political, and I like that about the guy. He's pleasant, and he listens, and he can do many things that can make St. Lucia a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that.
Thank you very much.
I agree.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Okay, then.
PAX is the agent for Caribbean Line, which offers an effective alternative for global integrative of transport logistics from Sheerness, UK to Vieux-Fort St. Lucia in shipping, documentation, administrative procedure, loading and unloading operations. We also offer courier, small package service, customs brokerage, ship agency, freight forwarder, consolidator, and accounting services. Visit them today on New Dock Road, Vieux-Fort, or call 454-1200 or 7198837. PAX is effective, efficient, and reliable.
Real estate transactions are now made easy. Whether buying, selling, or renting residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, or touristic property, we offer the best deals in real estate transactions with professional support, including valuation, material sourcing, and construction. Contact Ed Harris and Associates, your courteous and efficient real estate agents. Call 485-1456 or email caribbiz@gmail.com.
Do you need to copy or print your document? Are you in need of insurance? Are you looking for office stationery? Stop. Yes, LMP Services on Clark Lane, Vieux-Fort has all the services you need. They open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or call 454-8757 or 721-8757 for affordable rates, reliable and effective customer service with a difference.
Ernesto's Auto Parts, located on the Labrie-Vieux-Fort Highway, is your place for auto parts. We have suspension parts, mounts, brakes, shocks, and so much more.
We specialize in accessories like mats, batteries, horns, lubricants, and much more.
We're open from Mondays to Saturdays from 8 to 5 and Sundays and most holidays from 8 to 1.
L'opri, Ernesto vai depois.
What do you need to transport? Call the hauler. At M&E's Trucking, we offer a wide range of services island-wide. From containerized movement, flatbed service, and lowboy transfers. We're located at Beanfield, Vieux-Fort. Our skillful professional drivers are ready to serve you. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram or email us at vibration711@gmail.com. Call us at 488-1000. We're ready to serve you. M&D's Trucking Service, a powerhouse ready to haul.
People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m.